Hello, everyone, and welcome to Technology Tuesday, hosted by Out of the Box Technology. We're excited to bring you these free webinars featuring third-party apps, tips and tricks from in and outside of QuickBooks, and hot topics that our industry is encountering. My name is Jennifer, and I will be your moderator today. Throughout the session, if you have any questions or need any clarification on anything that we cover, please feel free to send me a note via the chat box on your GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll be happy to answer any of your issues or present any of your questions that you have to Barb, who's our presenter today. A little bit about Out of the Box Technology before we get started. If you're not familiar with us, we are a firm that has a full team of consultants that are specializing in QuickBooks training, integration, hosting, and support. We have a whole team of bookkeepers that offer bookkeeping services, and we have a great development team that focuses on website design, custom app development, and data migrations. We also have two really exciting products that we have. Our event app, which is a full conference registration, multi-conference event app that we can customize to your liking to really make your events a success. The other product that we're extremely excited about is Recur360, and most of you probably either are interested in it or use it and are looking to learn more, since that's what our presentation is on today, is the new features of Recur360 for the quarter. But this presentation also comes at a really great time because just last week we are so excited. We were featured in CFO Tech Outlook magazine as their top billing and invoicing solution provider. So you can see the magazine there. They featured us. We were really excited. It's a great article about how Andrew and Lisa developed Recur360. The pain points that some of our customers were facing really drove them to develop this, and it's really exciting that we were recognized by CFO Tech Outlook. I'll have a link for you all if you want to read the full article. We'll email that out to you shortly. But for now, I am going to hand things over to Barb. She is so gracious to join us on each of these updates to walk you through what's new in Recur360. Because as I said, we have this team of developers that are constantly listening to you, our customers, and updating and changing and bringing you new solutions within Recur360 that will really meet your needs and make your businesses function better. So Barb, with that, I'm going to hand things over to you and we will get started.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. So let me make sure I show my proper screen here. Okay. Can everybody see my Recur360 screen with my account logins?
Yep, looks good.
Great. Okay. So a couple of things I wanted to cover this morning. I'd like to do a basic overview of Recur360 in case we have any new people who don't have the product yet or are interested in what we do. And then I'll also, as Jennifer mentioned, cover all of our newest updates since I believe July was the last time we did a session. So I'll kind of go into details in what the new features are and how they work and what's upcoming. As a basic starting point, when you sign up for Recur360, we are what is called QuickBooks Accountant Ready, which means we have the capability for you to connect to more than one QuickBooks company file. In my system here, you'll notice that I have a Sandbox company, which is connected to a QuickBooks Online company file, and also my OOTB company, which is connected to a QuickBooks Desktop file. Recur360 itself works very similar no matter which type of QuickBooks file you're interacting with. There are a few subtle differences based on features that are available in QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop, like the location feature in QuickBooks Online as an example. But from the most part, the software itself works exactly the same. So I'll go ahead and log us into my QuickBooks Sandbox file here that's connected to my QuickBooks Online. And Recur360 really has evolved into three different areas. The main point and our starting point was to be able to do recurring invoices linked to automatic payments for QuickBooks. So we can generate your recurring invoice, process the payment automatically, post that invoice and that payment back over to QuickBooks. The second area that we've developed into was our collection center. So this is an area of the software where all your open invoices are going to come in, and we're going to help you automate the collection process. So Recur360 has the ability to select all the open invoices here because I have 20 of them open, and I want to send an email to all of these clients to let them know that their invoices are overdue. So I can choose to send an email, and I want to send that and schedule it to happen every 3 days, 2 days beginning 1 day after the due date. So then Recur360 is going to take over for you and send email notifications to each one of these clients that their invoice is overdue. And it will keep happening every 2 days until that invoice gets paid or you cancel that recurring email. So that's the second area that Recur360 helps you with. Also in the Collection Center, you can very easily process a payment here. So if I want to unselect all of these, and if I want to process a payment, Jeff calls me and says, go ahead and run my credit card. I can process the payment here, whether it's a stored card that he already has with you or post a manual payment. So I can post that he sent me a check, put in his check number, and automatically email him then a copy of the paid invoice. That is going to process a payment over to QuickBooks linked to that invoice, mark that invoice as paid, and send the customer an email. So that gets that off my Collection Center area. Okay. So that's our second area for Recur360. The last area that I want to talk about this morning is our recurring payments. And this is processing his credit card charge, by the way, and I just made a change to my credit card setup, so this might fail. But the third area, the newest area for us, is what we call our recurring payments. It is similar to a payment plan. It was successful, good. Set up, as I said, similar to a payment plan for a customer who has a large overdue balance with you. So that customer's $5,000 past due and they want to establish that they'll send you $200 every month to work off that payment plan. Or if you have a customer who has a large purchase, an equipment purchase, a capital purchase that they buy from you in one invoice, and that is a $10,000 invoice, and you want to be able to offer them kind of an internal financing option. You have the ability in Recur360 to add a recurring payment. You would choose the customer that you're going to work with. You look in your customer list here. So I have a customer called Gita. I can link this to any of her open invoices, which it looks like Gita doesn't have any open invoices with me. Let me pick a different customer who has some past due invoices that I can show you, because if I link this recurring payment to an invoice, then once that invoice is fully paid, I see this one has a balance due of $760. This payment plan will stop happening automatically. So I'll set the system up that every month I'm going to charge this customer on the 5th day of the month, beginning today, and our recurring invoices happen overnight, so it'll automatically start tomorrow. So this will tell me that on 12/5 is when it will process the first payment, and it'll keep running until it's fully paid. I would choose to automatically charge that customer's payment information, and then I pick which payment form he wants to use, because I can have multiple payment forms stored in Recur360. So he wants to use his MasterCard for that one. I'd like to send him an email notifying that the payment's been made, and then I pick how much. So if he wants to pay $100 each month, I can do that. And then I will put a note in here that's going to go along with the email, plan, and I press submit. And now the system takes over, and the 5th of every month will charge that customer $100 and will apply that payment towards that open invoice into QuickBooks. So that process is automated for you again. As I mentioned with the payment plans, you do not have to link it to an invoice. So in this case, for my Red Rock Diner customer, I process a payment for him on the 15th of every month of $500, and that is simply going to post a payment into QuickBooks as an unapplied payment. So it would be a credit on his account then. And this one never ends. So it's going to keep charging him $500 every month until I tell it to stop. So that's really our newest and third area for Recur360. We really consider ourselves kind of the advanced invoicing and payments option to add on to your QuickBooks file. And that's kind of an overview of Recur360 in itself. Then I'd like to dive into what are our new features and the things that we have brought on board recently. Approximately once a month or once every other month, we get an update to the software, and those are always based on customer demand, requests, and enhancements that we feel would benefit the product and move us forward. Okay. So some of the key features that we've brought on board is, one of them is kind of a redesign of a lot of the screens that you're going to see. And it's meant to be more of a overview type of a view for you. Our customer center is one of the main areas that got revised. So if I look at my Bill's Windsurfing Shop customer, I can see right here that he has a total open balance of $1,300. If I would like to drill into his customer file, when I click on his company name, I'm going to see a lot of overall information about him. So here's his basic company information, his email history. So this shows me every email that Recur360 has sent to this customer, as well as the status of those emails, whether the customer has opened that email and clicked on a link inside of it, or what has happened to that email. This is when we canceled a pending overdue notification. So one of our Recur360 users manually went in here and stopped this from sending to the client, and I can see that from here. He also got a notification that his credit card was expiring. So Recur360 sends those out automatically for you if you tell it to, because if you keep that customer's card on file and it is linked to a recurring invoice, you obviously don't want that card to expire when you're going to go ahead and try and charge it next month. So we will send the customer a notification ahead of time to let them know that their card is expiring, it's linked to a recurring invoice, and it will ask them to update their payment information. Okay. The right-hand side of our customer dashboard page has all of his recent invoices. So these are invoices that are linked to this customer, whether they were generated by Recur360 or created in QuickBooks manually itself. And I can see the status of them as well. I can see this one is for $760. It's still open, and it's due on 12/5, and has not been paid for. I can also see, if I click View All Invoices, his total invoice history with us. And again, it's going to show me the status of these. I have here that this payment form was not applied because the card was expired. So these most recent invoices, the customer obviously didn't update their credit card information, and it did not process this payment. So that's why those are still open. Okay. I can also see the details of any one of those invoices by clicking on that Recur360 ID field. That will pull up that invoice exactly as it looks and how it goes out to the customer. Another new feature that we've just added is the ability for you to take notes and put notes in this invoice that are internal and specific to this invoice only. So maybe if I contacted that customer about a payment and he said that he would update it, I can record a note here that says, Barb talked to customer, promised he would pay. So although we aren't a true CRM, customer relations management software, this is the ability for you to put an internal note here so all of your Recur360 people can see what happened and what notes were taken. These, as I mentioned, do not show on invoices, and they do not sync to QuickBooks. So they are internal within Recur360 only and specific to this invoice. Okay. Let's go back to Bill's Windsurfing Shop. I can just click on his company name from the invoice there. It'll take me back to the dashboard of the customer profile. And then the bottom right-hand half, the last information that we have on there, is what recurring invoices does he currently have set up. He's got one set up for $760 that is going to happen in February, and then another one that will happen on December the 1st. And he has two recurring payment plans. One for $150 is going to happen on the 10th, and another for $100 that will happen on the 5th. So I get to see an overview of what's going on with this client right here from his screen. Also, some of the other new features that we have in here is when you edit this particular customer, you have the ability now, our state field has been converted to a drop-down box, which is typable too. So I can update this automatically. This makes this more compatible with some of the sales tax programs that are looking for a true state abbreviation as opposed to a customer just typing the word Alaska or whatever they happen to type in there. So it's going to make it a little bit more consistent in your states that are available. We also have the 6 Canadian provinces listed here as well. So all U.S. states and Canadian provinces are listed here for you to pick from or type in. I don't remember what that was, so I'm going to leave it alone. It'll revert back to what it was. The right-hand half of our customer screen now has the ability to see when a payment form was added to that account. So I can see here that this particular credit card was added to Bill's Windsurfing Shop on June 6th. Okay, so was this one. And again, any different payment forms, if I add another new one, it's going to tell you how old that credit card information is, basically, so you know when that was added. Okay. And lastly, since this is a QuickBooks Online file and QuickBooks Online customer, we have the ability now to work with QuickBooks' customer type, which wasn't available for QuickBooks Online customers before. So if you use that field in your QuickBooks file, I can link to that and update that information as well. And the last setting that's here on our customer screen is our invoice link settings. When you create your Recur360 account and create it and link it to a payment processor, you have the ability to link it to a payment processor for only credit cards or only ACH or both. You can also further restrict that at a customer level. So although I might have both credit card and ACH available to the majority of my customers, I can go in and say, you know, Bill's credit cards have failed in the past, and so when I send him the Pay Online link, I only want him to be able to pay via ACH. So when Bill clicks on his Pay Online link inside of the invoice that he receives, he will not be able to enter a credit card as a payment form. This setting, by the way, does not restrict the collection center or you manually adding a payment form to this customer's account. So you, as the Recur360 user, could still come in and add a credit card or process an open invoice to an existing credit card for this customer, but Bill will only be able to add and pay for things via ACH in his Pay Online link. So that is another new feature as well. Okay. I'm not going to save and sync this customer since I didn't want to update any of that information, but that gives you an overview of what our customer dashboard screen looks like. Okay. We also have redesigned a few of our reports in Recur360. So if I go to my report screen, I have a new recurring invoice lines report. This report is going to show you every line item that is on a recurring invoice for any of your customers. This is very helpful if you want to export this to a CSV kind of a file into Excel and do some data analysis with that if you want to total out some numbers or project some numbers, because this is going to show you how much it's going to go for and the date that is next going to process for. So this will kind of project out for you your recurring revenues from an invoice perspective. You have the ability as well when you're running this report to narrow down the dates that it's going to run for. It defaults to the next month, but if I really only want to see my December recurring revenue, then I can change this to go from December 1st through December 31st, let's say. And then it will only show me line items that are on invoices that will be generated in that time frame. Let me see if there's any other, our invoice history report also now has a date filter as well. So you have the ability to look at your invoices that have been generated by Recur360 again and filter those by a certain time range. So this is going to show you your revenue history. So what's been invoiced in the past month or you could narrow that down as well. So a couple new options for you there in our reporting area. Let's talk, I'm going to skip around here again. Sorry, I missed one thing in our customer menu. A lot of our customers have asked for kind of an onboarding feature for their new subscription customers that they're signing up for whatever services they're providing and generating their recurring revenue. And one of the things that we did to be able to help out and facilitate with that is I have, let's say I've added a brand new customer called Mark Cho. I'm just bringing him on board and getting ready to set up his recurring, let's say if he didn't have a recurring invoice yet. I could, once I create his customer account, send him an email up here in the top right that will have a pay online link in it and tell him that we are setting up his payment plan. Please enter your credit card information. Okay. When I send this email to him, he's going to get an email from Recur360 that says we are setting up your payment plan. It is going to have a pay online link in it that will allow him to then enter his own payment information ahead of time. So before I even generate the recurring invoice, I'm going to have his credit card information. So here is a copy of the email that he gets. Okay. With all of our Recur360 emails, you have the opportunity to brand it yourself, so you can put your logo in the top of it and change the color of these banners up at the top here. And then this is the kind of Uber style email that he gets. He then has the ability here to say, click to view or pay, enter his payment details. Now, as an example, this particular Mark Cho customer already has an open invoice, so it would let him pay his open invoices. But if he were a brand new client, he wouldn't have any open invoices. The only thing he would see here is an option for payment details. And he could enter either a credit card number or ACH information because his account is enabled to allow both. Okay, so he enters his information here. Okay, puts in his credit card, all of his CVV information, his address, and then it says here that it is going to store that and allow it to be used for future transactions. So that will put his payment form on his account now. You, as the Recur360 customer, get a notification that Mark has entered payment details, and he gets a notification thanking him for putting in that payment details. Okay. So then you would go back to Recur360 here, and now if I refresh my customer screen, and I go back to Mark Cho, if I edit his customer file, I'm able to see that today, there was a new payment form added, his payment processor, because in my setup, I have my settings set to do credit cards through authorize.net, and then I'm going to do my ACH transactions through Intuit, because as a QuickBooks Online customer, I get Intuit ACH transactions for free. So you have the ability to designate that separately, and I'll show you where that's set in a few minutes. Here is the information that I, as the Recur360 business owner, get that tells me that Mark has updated his payment method. So that means onboarding a new customer that I am now ready for that next step to be able to create his recurring invoice and link that payment form to it. So when I go to Mark's account, I'm going to say that I want to create a new recurring invoice for him, and I'm going to go set up his recurring invoice. So this is his monthly service. Again, our templates are named so that you can sort and easily view similar types of recurring invoices together. So if you name this one in a similar manner, then you're going to be able to see that in your recurring invoice screen and filter by that, sort by that, and see what's going on with that. It's linked to Mark Cho. I see what his billing information is here. I put in the description. for monthly support. Again, the description here is internal for you only, does not display on his invoice or show to Mark in any way. Then I set the frequency for my invoice. I'm going to choose that this is going to go monthly, every 1 month on the first day of the month. It's scheduled to start on 11/28 and never end. I pick my terms. It's going to be due on receipt. And if I've enabled locations in QuickBooks Online, I can select that and link that here. So that way you can do some different reporting in QuickBooks Online as far as what your locations are doing in revenue. Okay. You can check to automatically send that overdue notice to him. I want to send it every 3 days, beginning we'll give him a grace period. So we'll do it 10 days after the due date. This I always typically set, even if I automatically link a payment form, because if the payment happens to fail and it still does not get paid within 10 days of the due date, then that customer is automatically going to begin getting emails letting him know that his invoice is still unpaid. Okay. Now, I'm going to then check over my payment details over here. I automatically want to process a payment for him. Which one do I want to do it to? I want to do it to his new visa that he just entered that's going to go through authorize.net. Okay. I want to do it on the same day as the invoice. Again, you can process that payment and split it 5 days later to give him the invoice on the 1st, but then let him know that his payment will be deducted on the 5th of the month. Okay. I really wanted to show you, because we didn't talk about it in the last Recur360 presentation, is our prorating option as well. Typically helpful for that service-based subscription first-time invoice kind of a situation as well. So I'm going to check that I want to prorate this first invoice, because although it's going to start on the 28th, it normally wouldn't invoice till the 1st of the month. So now that I've checked for it to prorate, it will tell me that on the 28th, tomorrow morning, it will generate an invoice for the partial month, and then on the 1st of December, it will take over and generate a full invoice. Okay. I do want to email a copy of this to the client. And I'm even going to backdate this to yesterday, by the way, guys, so that I can show you how I'm going to push that transaction, make it go through right away, and show you what that looks like. Then, now that I've told it to prorate, I begin adding the line items that I want to charge that customer for. So I'm going to put a service item on here. Again, this comes directly from my item list in QuickBooks. So I'll say this is for pest control services. I can put a class on it, just like QuickBooks Online. I don't have any in my file, so I would have to add those to QuickBooks Online and then sync them over to Recur360 to populate this list. I put in my quantity and my rate. So we're going to do 5 pest control services, let's say, for the month. And then, as I mentioned last time, we have our dynamic date fields. So I could say for the period beginning and put the invoice date there. So in this case, that would be 11/27. The new feature that we have added since the last time we showed this presentation is the ability for you to create a dynamic date. And that is if one of these 4 options, invoice date, invoice due date, day before the next invoice date, or the next invoice date, if one of those doesn't fill the criteria that you're looking for, you can create your own dynamic date here and say that you want to say this monthly on the 15th day of the month. Okay. And then I create that. And then that is now an option here. So it could say for the period beginning the invoice date through the 15th of the day of the month. So some flexibility and options for you there if you need to have different date information populate into your invoice automatically. Okay. Now, this particular line item, I've added 5 for a total payment of $175. It's going to prorate automatically for this first invoice when I press the Save button. And that would be my normal fee for him. So this first invoice is going to charge him $23.33. Next month, beginning on the 1st, it'll go for $175, the full month. I'm also going to add another line item on here because let's say I have a one-time spray or an initial setup fee that I want to charge this customer as well. So I'm going to add another service, another just called services, one of those for $49.99, and this is your first time setup, if I can spell. Spray. Okay. I do not want to prorate this item because I wanted to charge the full $50 even the first time. And I want to delete this item after the first invoice because it is the first time one-time setup fee, first time spray kind of a situation. So if I check both of those options, it will be added to the first invoice only at the full price. So let me save that. And now I can see again. So my first invoice here is now going to be for $73.32, and my next invoice is for $175. So I can now submit this, and it is queued up to automatically overnight generate that first invoice at the prorated amount to that client, and then take over on the first for the full amount. If I've already done that service and I should have already invoiced that customer, that's why I dated that particular one for Mark to happen on the 27th, so today's date. If I then press the button here called push transactions, that means process that right away instead of waiting for the automatic situation to happen overnight. So that is going to check all of my Recur360 invoices right now and see if any of them should have generated an invoice, which they're my next recur period. Here is going to be what's going to determine that. So the only one that should happen is my 11/27 one. Once this green light goes away, if I refresh my recurring invoices screen, I notice now from Mark Cho that that one has generated the invoice, okay? And that the next time it's going to happen is on 12/1, and it ran successfully. If I look at Mark Cho's customer account now, and by the way, I just got an email that tells Mark, here's what Mark is going to receive. Thank you for doing business with us. Your payment method is set to automatically charge for this invoice on 12/2 because I told it to process the payment 5 days after the invoice. So right now, this is still an unpaid invoice, but automatically on the 2nd, it will process that payment for him for these two line items. The pest control item that is on this invoice is the one that has the dynamic date field. So this says pest control services for the period beginning 11/27 through, and I did it for the previous month when I created that dynamic date field, by the way. So it says 10/15. So the math doesn't work out here on this. You do need to be careful when you're using that dynamically created date invoice option to make sure you're going to do that properly. Okay. But that is the invoice that the client receives. And then next month, he's going to receive a full price invoice. Okay. In line with that being able to split the payment processing for that customer, that invoice that just went out to him that is for $73.32, as I said, is still not processed with a payment. So if I were to look at this invoice in Recur360, down at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to see all the invoice emails that have gone out to him. So the one went out today, and there's one pending for 12/7 if it doesn't get paid, to send him an overdue notice. I can also see under my scheduled payments tab that there is a payment pending for this to go on the 2nd of December, and there are no recurring payment plans, that recurring payments option here, that are linked specifically to this invoice. So that's what you can see down here. Now, if Mark were to call me and say that he just received that invoice and he'd rather pay for it with his other payment form, then he doesn't want this payment to automatically process on the 2nd, I can go ahead and process the other one now. I can cancel this pending payment. That is now removed, so I don't have any payments scheduled. And I can process a separate payment and pick which one I want to use. Okay, let's say he gave me cash, and I can process a payment for that. So that is how our prorating and our split payment processing options work within Recur360. And that's the prorating is something I didn't talk about last time, and something that we've worked on as well, with adding the ability to remove an item after the initial invoice. Those are some new features there as well. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the other settings, which I briefly touched on some of them that are new in here. When you go into our settings menu and go to the email options, you have some new options here. The invoice link settings option has the ability to stop a customer from seeing their past invoices and or limit the number of days that they can see their past invoices. Because as an example, when that Mark Cho client clicked on his Pay Online link, he can go here and see his past invoices. Currently, he can see all of his invoice history with you. But we understand that some customers might not want to let their clients see the paid invoices from that far back, from one reason or another. Maybe their QuickBooks file hasn't been cleaned up and these aren't all exactly accurate, or something else needs to happen like that. So you can limit the amount of days back this customer can see, and or you have the ability to totally remove that paid invoices option as well. So if you check this and leave the display fields date blank, then they can see the entire history. Or I can set this at 120, and then they can only see that number of days, or I'm sorry, it's a date field. So you pick the date. If I only want them to see from January 1st, I could do 1/1/2018. And then they can only see anything after January 1st of this year. Okay. Also in these settings, something that I touched on briefly when I was talking about processing payments, Recur360 has the ability to connect to multiple payment processors. So we have a list of 6 different processors that we work with: Authorize.net, Intuit, Stripe, Elevon, USA ePay, and our own Recur360 payments. And I can link to more than one at a time. So QuickBooks Online gives you the advantage of doing free ACH payment processing. So I can link all of my ACHs to go through Intuit and take advantage of that free processing for QuickBooks Online. But maybe I get a better deal with Authorize.net for my credit cards. So I also connected Recur360 to Authorize.net in my payment settings, and I can use that for credit card processing. So you can link it to 2 separate ones and take advantage of different rates that way, and still stay with one platform, one interface, one way to process everything. Okay. Also, let me see if there's any other new settings. Oh, yes. Here in our invoice settings area of the email setup, you can check here to hide the item names or item codes that QuickBooks shows to you. When a customer gets a copy of an invoice, which I think I closed out that other invoice. Let me open back up the invoice that I had sent for Mark. The invoice that the client receives is going to show you the QuickBooks item name or item code, part number as they call it, and then the description of the item by default. If you maybe don't have specific item codes or item codes that aren't going to mean anything to your client, okay, those also appear, by the way, on the PDF invoice that attaches as well. So if that's not something that's important or significant to your end customers, you have the ability to not show that, and then it would only show the description in both the email that they get and the attached PDF. Okay. And last new setting in our email option is to give you the ability to control how the address displays on the attached PDF that goes to the client again. Typically, if the bill to address is filled in and a ship to address is filled in, those will both show on that PDF invoice. Some clients do not ever want to show a ship to. They don't need it or they don't have it. or they might not have information in a bill to as far as the full address lines, but they still want to show that information to the client on the PDF. So you can tell it to override it. If the billing address is blank, you can still tell it to show that in the PDF attachment. Because by default, if the address is blank, that entire block does not show at all. So if you'd like to still show that, to be able to show the company address maybe and contact name, you can tell it to show empty billing address, but maybe not empty shipping addresses in the block. So that is a new option for you as well in our new update that just came back. Okay. Now, lastly, let's get into some details on our payment methods and how we integrate to those, because that's some other new features that have come on board. As I mentioned, we do work with 6 different payment processors. They're all listed here. It does not matter to Recur360, whichever one you connect to. We do not also add any additional fees to these recurring invoice or payment processing options. So I'm not going to add a fee on top if you're not using our payment forms. Our payment, our invoicing model is that we are $59 per month per account. So no matter how many transactions you process, no matter what credit card or ACH volume you do, it's still going to be the same that's billed to you by Recur360. Obviously, your merchant account is going to charge you processing fees, but we don't add anything to that. 2 of the new features that we've added, and we're also looking into doing this with other processors, is the ability to synchronize data back from these processors and bring credit card information into Recur360 from these. 2 of them that we have written so far is an integration to Stripe and another integration to Authorize.net. So if you're using either one of these, we have the ability to sync stored credit card information from those processors into Recur360. Typically, when you add a new payment processor to Recur360, you then have to re-enter all of your credit card information into Recur360. Because we do not actually store full card information. We store what is called a token to that information within the processor. So I keep a token key with Authorize.net that says, please go process to this particular customer in your Authorize.net account. Okay, and I have a Authorize.net sandbox file here that we can look at, and I can show you how that happens. So what we've added now is the ability, when you connect to Authorize.net, is you can go into the settings here and tell it that you want to initiate a sync with Authorize.net. And you can do it in 2 different ways. You can either match based on the customer display name field that is in Recur360 and QuickBooks, and that will match in the customer information manager in Authorize.net. Or you can match based on the customer's email address from Recur360, matching the email address in Authorize.net. So you pick which of those options, because some people have a company name with a personal card that might not match exactly, but they want to match off any company name with that because they have multiple people there. Maybe the accounting person isn't the card person. So it can match off either one of those. So if I choose to sync it based off the email address and then I save that, now when I go back into my Authorize.net option, I have a new menu choice that says Sync with Authorize.net. That is going to go compare your Recur360 customer list and your Authorize.net customer information manager list to check for any cards that match based on, I told it to match off an email address. Okay. Now these 2, I don't have email addresses, so it's not going to find anything in here. But that gives you the ability then to synchronize that information and keep it up to date between the 2 softwares. It's very helpful if you are especially initially signing up for Recur360 and you've been an Authorize.net user already. You're not going to have to key in all of that credit card information manually into Recur360, as long as it finds a match between the customer email address or customer display name, whichever option I chose there. We have a very similar setup initiated with Stripe, as I mentioned, they are the other payment processor that we've written that two-way compatible integration to. And we are looking as well to add one for USAE Pay, hopefully by the end of the year. So that's going to help with automating that process for you and keeping that information up to date. Also, we are working on Authorize.net has an account updater setting that works to help keep their information current and up to date for customers who have expiring cards and things like that as well. So that'll keep everybody in sync between all of your recurring invoicing modules there. Right. And I think, let me just make sure I kind of covered everything that is a new option here. And by the way, the Authorize.net option and the drop downs for the states are things that are still in beta testing for the rest of this week. They will be launched on Monday. So you can see it here on my test site that I have it, but it's not accessible, those two features in your live site right now. It will be coming over on Monday when we push out our next new update. And I believe those are really everything I wanted to cover from my list for today with all of our features for Recur360. Jennifer, are there any questions or things that people have mentioned?
Thanks, Barb. We actually don't have any questions coming in. So again, if anyone who's listening in right now has questions about what Barb has covered, whether it's some of the new features that we've developed over the last couple of months or about Recur360 in general. One thing I did want to mention, as I see on the corner of your screen right now, Barb, is the Recur360 sweepstakes that we have going on. If you are a Recur360 user and you're loving it, if you write us a review, you could be entered, or you would be entered to win a Starbucks or Amazon card. So I'll include those links in our follow-up email as well if you want to write us a review and get entered into that sweepstakes. But otherwise, just a lot of comments. Thanks so much for the information, Barb. Keep up the great work. Great job, Recur360. So it sounds like these new features are things that people are really excited about, and we're on the right track. So we love hearing that. If you do have things, like I mentioned at the beginning, that are pain points for you, or I wish I could do this, definitely let us know, because that's really what we're here for. We would love to make this app just exactly what you need and what you're looking for. So we'll definitely try our best to incorporate that in. I say we lightly, it's not me. It's our development team that do such an amazing job. So we really appreciate the work that they put in. Okay, so I do have a question that came in here.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention our support chat, which Jennifer was talking about, our other people that are here as well. We've kind of done a lot of work on improving our knowledge base here. So if you wanted to just do some research on your own, our knowledge base articles are listed here. So we've got kind of working on improving those. And as people have chats with us and support issues, we try to update these as often as we can.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm really glad that we did that, because a lot of people have the same questions. So it's just really a nice place to store all of that and just kind of research a little bit. And if you still can't find it, of course, our support is here to help. So, but the question that just came through the chat is, are there any plans to offer more customization in the automated emails? For example, can I make my logo smaller?
The logo size is going to be dependent upon whatever logo size you upload. So if you make your logo smaller before you upload it, it would go to whatever size that logo is. So I don't have a lot of requests for too much customization in that area. I do know we do have plans on our roadmap for you to be able to do some more customization to the attached PDF that goes out, because that currently is kind of static, and that's been a request.
Great, thanks, Barb. All right, well, I think that is it. And as always, if you have anything that comes up, feel free to, use our chat, use our support tools, or just reach out, email us. We're all here for you. It's kind of our goal is to make sure that things are going smoothly for all of our customers. So we really appreciate your support, and thanks for joining us today to learn about these updates. We will be having these Recur360 webinars as part of Technology Tuesday, definitely quarterly. And then if there's some big updates, some big new things that we have with Recur360, we might insert them into the schedule more often. But keep a lookout for them, because I know they're helpful to a lot of you, and it's just a good way to keep up with what's going on. So thank you so much, Barb. We really appreciate you being on with us today.
You're welcome, guys.
And speaking of our schedule for Technology Tuesday, I'm going to go ahead and take the screen back, and we have two more sessions this year, and both of them are going to be presented by our co-founders. So Andrew Abrams is going to do a demo next week on locate inventory. We've done a lot of work with them and partnering with them, and we really just love their product and their solution for inventory management. And so he's going to walk through that solution for you and how we can kind of work together. And then on December 11th, our other co-founder, Lisa McCarthy, will be joining us to do an overview of what's new in QuickBooks for 2019. So there are some changes, some new features, just a little differences, some good, some bad, but Lisa's going to go through all of those and just kind of give you an overview and answer any questions and see how we can help make that transition for you if you do choose to move on to QuickBooks 2019 version. And then next year, in 2019, we have a full schedule already. I'm really excited. This year, we've done Technology Tuesday about twice a month. And next year, we are, the first 6 months, booked almost every Tuesday. So that's really exciting. We'll be featuring a lot more of what we do here at Out of the Box Technology. So that's how we're going to kick off the year, is myself and my colleague Ellen are going to do a full presentation really all about Out of the Box Technology, who we are, what we do, what makes us tick, and all the different service offerings that we have, because we do have a lot. Sometimes people ask, oh, what does Out of the Box Technology do? And it's like, how much time do you have? Because we really do have a lot of things that we can offer solutions for our customers. So we're going to high level that, and then as the year goes in, we'll really dive deep into our different solutions, like our event app, more of these Recur360 sessions, information about our hosting, our bookkeeping, all of that. So we're really excited about the year to come. So look for these on our website. You can register for as many as you want. They're all free. Invite your friends. We really hope to see you there. And as always, if you have any questions, if there's anything else you want to hear about, please reach out to us. My email is there, outoftheboxtechnology.com. You can jump on the chat to talk to somebody. Or if you have any ideas for a Technology Tuesday, like I said, the schedule is pretty full, but we're always welcoming new apps. If you have a hot topic you want to hear about, anything that you want us to kind of research and find a qualified expert on, we'd love to present to you what you're looking for. So email me and let me know, and we would be happy to get that on the schedule for you. So thanks again, everyone who is watching, whether you're here with us live or watching on demand via our website. We appreciate you here, and we hope you have a great holiday. Thanks so much, everyone.